I'm Matt Bergman, and you are listening to the Punk Rock Libertarians podcast, episode 140. Which episode is it, Kyle?
3.
Okay, 143.
You need glasses.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if because a lot of times people don't update the number.
Oh,
so,
that's true.
Yeah,
okay,
so I was
never
just
mind.
running by him to see if he updated it. So, yeah, and I'm here tonight with fucking Phil Dassing's phone.
What's up?
Phil Dassing's phone's here. And we've got fucking Jared Schneiderman.
Yo.
And then Philip's phone brought Phil up. And
Yeah.
then we've got Kyle Wagner.
Hey guys, what's up?
And we've got Rachel Bissell.
Hola.
Hey, thanks for coming out, guys. Yeah, this is gonna be a fun one. It's been really cold.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like
It's colder than a witch's titty in a brass bra.
It's
Yeah,
cold.
before we launch in though, let me give a shout out to the Patreon.
Okay, cool.
You dickhead. I mean, do you want to get paid or not? So anyways, that's giving me a hard time, but we do have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/punkrocklibертarians, and we got a bunch of tiers. We're giving away t-shirts, a bunch of cool shit, so check that out and just help out the show. Anyways, back to the cold.
Sweet.
It's super cold out.
Yeah, so like actually two bathrooms, like the basement bathroom in my house and the bathroom on the main floor, are
Your pipes
both
froze?
well, the one, the top of the toilet and the bottom of the toilet, whatever connects them, broke.
Ooh.
So yeah, that's got to be fixed. And then the one on the main floor, it's basically like some pipes froze because they're actually outside in a box that wasn't properly insulated. But they haven't.
That's what we had happen to our bathroom.
They haven't frozen like the first 2 years that we've been here. It's just like these are like
Well,
the
this
coldest
is just
temperatures.
ridiculous,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So
You have sustained temperatures of below 15 degrees for like a whole week.
Yeah, it's been about a week.
I mean, there's been so many stories of just like people's pipes bursting and like water main breaks that just shoot ice sheets over everybody.
So are you saying global warming isn't real?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
The Washington Post just had an article there, like I guess it's the counter what Donald Trump's been saying, and they were saying in Australia that their asphalt's melting, and because it's the summertime in Australia.
Well, yeah,
the
it's
southern
global
hemisphere.
temperatures. It's not temperatures in Maryland.
I know.
It's global temperatures that are rising.
Well, they say climate
average.
change now because it wasn't, the numbers weren't adding up. It wasn't just cooling. Sometimes it was hotter. So they
certain
changed it to
places
just say climate
certain
change.
Places we're getting colder. We're having colder temperatures at certain times of the year, but on average, the planet is heating up.
I don't know, man.
Which
But
is
I don't want to get
causing
into a
all
fucking
of
global
the- yeah.
warming debate right now.
Hey, we're
So-
not
I'm just saying-
scientists.
I'm just
We
saying-
don't do studies on this shit. We
Yeah.
can't sit
Yeah.
here and spout like.
right. So let's just.
I mean, yes, they're using it for political means.
Oh yeah,
but
I'm not disputing
the
that at all.
It's happening. We're just
Well, we can discuss, what can be done as far as just air. Like, the government controls the air. It's public property. So they regulate the sky, the air, emissions, and all of that. So there's a little bit that they can do as far as regulating emissions. They regulate automobile emissions and they regulate like the smog stacks, but like you can't just say, okay, we can't even fart anymore because there won't be, like you would shut down all production and all transportation. Just everything humans
If you
do.
stop farting.
yeah.
Well, everything humans do involves some output into the atmosphere, so that you can't shut that down completely. But at the same time, some libertarians would say, well, it shouldn't be regulated at all, and people should just be able to.
Well, then you're going to be like China, where
Right,
you can't see 5 feet in front of you.
Right, you get problems with smog. So I think there's a happy medium between probably where the Democrats want to go, which is really curtailing manufacturing and factories and that kind of thing, and probably cars as well. I met one in a bar one time that told me that we should abolish cars. She thought
Lovely.
she thought the government should completely take over transportation. Everything should be rail
What could
and
go wrong,
bike,
Kyle?
and that cars should be outlawed. And I was like, wow, that's pretty extreme.
Those people vote.
So
It's pretty insane.
yeah, I mean, but that they take the environmental stuff, to that level to where they don't think that individuals should have a right to choose what they do.
Well, I think people like that tend to actually just have a hatred of humanity. I think that's what motivates. Not every. It's obviously a blanket
I
statement.
just feel like they're not looking at things realistically, and we'll make it illegal. That'll solve the problem. Like there's a
That too,
it's a
yeah.
black and white issue when really it's a gray issue.
Right.
There's
Even
a
with
lot of. There's 50 Shades of Gray or 50 Shades of Kyle.
Yeah.
You want to look at it.
even with public transportation, you're still going to have some pollutants, some energy expenditure. So, I don't,
but it's not every. It's not everybody in their own single car driving.
Yeah.
It's one bus with like 50 people in it or whatever.
And there's also the presumption that government is not a polluter. Like the government's the number one polluter in the world. The U.S. government is, particularly with the military.
Yeah.
Because you've got all this heavy equipment going overseas. You've got all these ships, and that, like I said, so to assume the private sector is the problem is a fallacy.
Yeah. Totally.
But back to the cold,
Yeah.
Baltimore City, we have aging infrastructure, aging pipes, and I'm not going to say that's the only reason, but they've got pipes exploding all over the place down there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was down there, I think Friday night, and there was just like this stream running down the sidewalk, and I'm like, I know this isn't melt because it's been well below freezing, and it was a pipe had burst.
Yeah.
And then I saw another one I had to drive around. They had all coned off where the road had like erupted, where they had another crack. But it's a real problem.
But there was there's I guess a story going around about how there's many public schools within the city limits that. Well, actually, so my friend, I have a friend I have a friend who works in city schools.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what school, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, so they made the kids go to school despite the fact that it was literally 30 in the 30s inside the school.
Yeah, and they're all wearing like gloves
they had
and
no
jackets.
heat?
They had no, so like many of these schools don't have heating systems or air conditioning systems,
which is unbelievable.
which is
Welcome
super
to your
insane
well-spent
because-
government money right there.
Right,
Like
so-
we're all funding the public schools, but they can't provide heating and cooling when necessary.
And a few months ago, the article came out. Do you guys have the exact number of what they said, how much they spend per student?
It was like 20 or 30
I
grand.
believe it was 30,000.
And that's like
Yeah.
the most in the country.
I thought it was
almost.
lower than
Wow.
that. I thought it was like 18. But
Wait, hold on, Google.
Yeah, like it was an article because they were talking about how like none of them are proficient in math. I remember talking about that being like the main topic of it.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy to think that all of this money and all these taxes are going towards these schools, and somehow they don't have heating, but yet somehow we keep having to fund out more and more money.
That should be the first thing that you would spend money on. It's just like the infrastructure,
Yeah,
the
well,
building
exactly.
that these people need to be in to
But
learn.
the school board wants to keep their money.
Of course,
And make
the
sure
what
that
is the
they have a
superintendent
car
of-
to
of-
drive in.
yeah,
and
Baltimore City.
yeah.
They're all corrupt.
The thing I saw was a tweet from I think it was a former NFL player who was turned teacher. That's what I remember it being, and it was him. He was all bundled up, and his students were all bundled up, and he was tweeting from Baltimore. It was a Baltimore City elementary school, and it made national headlines.
Yeah.
And
Well, so
it was
what happened-
38 degrees. 38
So what
degrees.
happened was, like the first day they came in, and they were like, "Yeah, we're not closing the school. Like you got to teach. It's 38 degrees in here." So the next day, all the teachers decided together that they weren't going to go to school. So then the school was like, "Oh yeah, we're closing schools now to keep the children safe."
Yeah.
It was like, no, you just don't
They
have
don't-
anybody to fucking
They
teach.
just don't care. They don't
No.
care about their clientele, which is one of the big problems with government is there's no care.
Yeah.
It's this rule-based society. Like if I have my clients, drive out in the middle of a blizzard, they're going to be like, I'm not coming back to you, but they
Yeah.
can't. If you go to a different school, if you don't go to school, you go to jail.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
no client, there's no customer service.
It's not
at
a
all.
customer
There's no
relationship.
Customer service.
No.
You know, I mean, they're not paying directly for tuition to go there. They can't take their kid elsewhere. And if they did, the government doesn't care. They don't get any less money because you pulled your kid out. Like, they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I actually went to a cheaper private school as a child, and like I looked up their tuition like a couple months ago, and I think it was like $6 or $7 grand. It was like, and then comparing it, and I looked it up after comparing it to what I heard that what Baltimore City was spending,
Mm-hmm.
and Baltimore City, what was it? I think
It's
it was
15 grand a student. I just looked
like
it up.
15
Grand.
Yeah.
That's just about
So-
as much as going to a good private school. I mean, it was 20 grand for the Summit School out in Edgewater.
Yeah, well, like my private school though, even back then in the fucking 80s and 90s, it was like they had heating and air conditioning. It's like it wasn't like unbearable in there.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to tell you this.
For like at least half the price.
I had heard on the radio they were saying like the 529 college savings plans, the Trump tax cuts extended that to K through 12. You can run your private tuition through a 529, which I guess is either tax free or tax advantaged plan for private tuition, which is great. I mean, libertarians should really be like celebrating that because it encourages people to use the private option and save some money on taxes. So, there are a few the Trump tax cuts is a whole nother topic, but I mean, there are a few little
isn't that kind
good
of
things in there.
Isn't that kind of like, how does that work though? Is it the government gives them money?
Well, I believe it's just like your 401k or an HSA plan where you put money into a special account and it's tax advantage, so you don't pay taxes on that income. And then you spend out of that account on that one specific thing, so that you would spend that on tuition. I'm not sure, but I think that's how it works.
Okay.
So it's great,
Well, if schools were not if we weren't forced to have public schooling, they'd be like grocery stores. You'd have your choice. You'd have the different options. You'd have different pricing. It wouldn't be $6,000 to send your kid to school. It'd be something cheaper because it would work out. But
that's true, but we kind of have like a split system because we definitely have private options now. There are private schools. I think that the cost of them is driven up by the fact that they're
of course
regulated to the point of, okay, you basically have to. They have to go through a bunch of compliance things.
Well, when you have to pay all these fines and just to get a license for this, to get insurance for that, to do this, to comply with the government, I mean, it's going to run up the cost. The government is half the reason that things are so fucking expensive in the first place.
Yeah.
But a lot of these like the Archdiocese of Baltimore can definitely, afford a lot of the prices for things. And it's just, I feel like they kind of take advantage. They're like, well, either you send your kids to public school and deal with that, or come here and pay 10 to 20 grand for middle school.
Well, the Catholic Church in itself is greedy, so they don't.
I'm just saying, they benefit, and it's not like because I know what you were saying, how expensive it is to get licenses for this and then get approved for this and get certified for that, but they can totally afford that. It's just they're just benefiting off the fact that it's like the either or option, and and it was funny because we're talking about this and. A lot of my anti-war, because I went to private school too when I was a kid, and a lot of my anti-war, I'm pro-life and I'm anti-death penalty was come from that, the school I went to, and I just added them on Facebook, and then recently I just saw that they had a bunch of soldiers in there. And then they were calling them heroes, and they were telling stories to the kids about how glorious it was being a soldier. And I was just blew my mind. So that's just a completely different topic, but I thought that was really weird.
People don't make that connection. The average person doesn't make the connection from being they're propagating killing other people, and war is this glorious thing. Where they can't see they see it as a protection. The police can do no wrong. All police are good. There's only a few bad eggs.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go off on another topic about that, but I just thought it was funny because I learned a lot of things about being anti-war from going to this Catholic school, and here they are having soldiers brought in telling you how good it is, and I just thought that was really bizarre, and it just shows the difference because I always thought there was that was 20 years ago, more than. So thinking now having kids of my own, I wanted them to go to private school, and then you just, because you don't, all this horrible stuff we've just been talking about public school, and just from the infrastructure alone, not even what they're being taught.
I wonder if the Army recruiters paid to let them do that, let them come in and speak to the students. I used to think the Ravens were just sort of
maybe
letting all this military showmanship before the games. That was just sort of a thing the Ravens were doing, and then it came out that they were getting millions of dollars from the Defense Department to put on these spectacles. So
propaganda.
It's possible that this school was paid by the recruiters to come in and speak to the students.
Yeah, so it's just like this is terrible. Like I can't imagine like being forced to send your kid to go to school when there's no heating. But it's funny because a lot of people were complaining last year when a few counties in Maryland, like I think it was Baltimore County, Baltimore City. This was like last winter. They called out because, or they canceled school because it was supposed to be too cold because it was like wind gusts or something took it into like the teens or whatever, and so they called off school. And then another time they called off school because it was like supposed to get like a light dusting, and it never happened at all, and they canceled school for it last year. And so it's funny now like what you're saying, how they forced them to school even though there was no heat and it was so cold. So it just shows the absolute shittiness of public schooling, especially in this state where we're taxed to hell, and it's terrible. And yet the schools really don't reflect that, especially in the inner cities. I mean, I know in the counties they're really, really good, but
city taxes are like twice as high.
Yeah,
and their roads are terrible down there. I mean, you almost need an SUV. I have a two-door coupe, and like I can barely drive down there. I'm bouncing all over the place.
Yeah, it's pretty rocky.
And
I hate driving in the city for that reason. I have a Toyota Celica. It's just like dun, dun, dun.
I got like 2 flats.
So I'm like, where is all the money going? Because the infrastructure's bad and the schools are bad, and then we have problems with the police down there as well. So
it's being embezzled by the mayor.
Honestly, like it feels like listening to all of this, customer service.
Yeah, it's bad. It is poor customer service, no doubt about it.
Yep. All right.
Weed, marijuana.
Oh yeah, Sessions, marijuana.
It says Sessions versus weed.
That guy.
It looks like it says wood.
I know.
Yeah. So
good job, Kyle.
Nice.
So Sessions came out. He should have this past week, and basically said that he was going to revoke a specific policy that prevented the federal government from making marijuana-related arrests in states, specifically states that had legalized marijuana. So it wasn't super clear on who this would affect, because from the sound of it, it still wouldn't affect. It wouldn't affect any legal marijuana. Any legal marijuana establishments. It would only affect people who were illegally, and I say that in quotation marks, because none of it should be illegal, but people who are illegally, growing or distributing marijuana outside of the purview of the state, essentially.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought he was actually going to go against state law and try to crack down on these businesses. And, their stock prices dove.
Yeah.
All these marijuana distributors or sellers, businesses. So I didn't know that. And the federal government, I guess these would be DEA agents, who would be actually doing the enforcement, because presumably it wouldn't be the California state cops, and it would be the feds, California county cops. So it would actually be DEA agents going after marijuana.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. I'm not super clear on what the. Can anyone else enlighten me on that?
What I mean, what I took, it's pretty much the same thing what Kyle was saying. I took out of it was that they were gonna, everything that was kind of protecting, or I want to say protection for lack of a better word, because it wasn't like they're gonna come after. It just gives them kind of the leeway now to go after states that have legal weed and people are using it, distill it. People
they
pretty much
can
just crack
manipulate
down
it
on it
to their advantage.
And it's
now,
just
basically,
to me, it was just like more federalism. It was giving, opening up a door for the federal agents to just come through, and that's just you give
Isn't
them an
that
inch,
what
they
first
think they're the
did
ruler.
when it was legalized in California? They were doing raid the federal.
Well, they would do that
government.
for like the medical marijuana stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't see if this would affect people with medical marijuana. I saw there was an article posted about would this affect you, but I never read it, so I don't know if that would or not. But it's something. It's just it's just a typical federal tyranny.
It's got to be confusing as a business, because
Yeah.
you're going,
Well,
am I
very.
allowed to do this? Am I not
Right.
allowed to do this?
Well, I had heard
what are
that-
my risks?
I'd heard like the governor of Colorado met with a bunch of like marijuana business owners.
I thought it was the attorney general of Colorado.
Oh, maybe it was, and he basically assured them that it wasn't, that they had nothing to really worry about. I mean, I don't know. Do you trust that guy? I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously
maybe he's going to protect it because he sees how much money.
Oh yeah,
that
I mean,
it's
they're all
bringing
about it.
the
Like their
state
government
in.
loves it just because they can tax the shit out of it.
Which it baffles me that after Colorado, no other state has it just run with it.
I thought Washington.
No, what was
well,
it?
other than I mean, like most of the states.
What state
no
just?
other.
There's one state where it just passed their house. Fuck, what was it? Connecticut, maybe?
I don't know.
For recreational.
Yeah, for recreational. Like it passed their house.
That was California.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a while ago. That
No,
got legalized a while ago.
California had it medically legalized, but it wasn't.
Well, they had already voted.
Recreational.
Okay, they had already voted to legalize it, but it wasn't happening until the new year. But I'm saying somebody just voted and got it through the House. Now it has to basically go, I guess, through the Senate, and then the governor already said he's going to not veto it. He's going to sign it or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, we have,
but I forget what state it was.
Medical marijuana now. There's a dispensary in Columbia open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think there's 9 in Maryland. That's what I'd heard.
9 dispensaries.
Yeah, that was a whole legal battle because they gave out only a handful or a limited number of dispensary licenses, and none of them went to minority-owned businesses. So it was held up. It was held up in a lawsuit for the past 4 years. This got passed 4 years ago, but they haven't been able to open and start distributing because of that pending lawsuit. So I don't know how it ever resolved, but apparently they're up and running now. And it kind of starts with the medical because I think you got a lot of it apparently is easy to get someone to say, okay, oh, my back hurts, give me a prescription. They give you a prescription, and then that opens the door to the recreational. So,
but you can't own a gun.
Yeah,
which is why I'm not getting one.
Yeah, exactly.
I have lupus, and all my friends are like, "Oh, you can get the medical marijuana card." And I'm like, "No, it takes away my Second Amendment right. I'm not." I have a really good dealer. I'm cool with that. Like, I can do my thing.
Yeah, you're fine.
I don't need to deal with, paying more too on top of it.
That's terrible. They snuck that in there.
Oh,
they're like, because you could get high.
But you can be a drunk.
You could get high and shoot somebody.
Shooting people.
Right? That's what high people do.
That's what people who are stoned do, not alcoholics.
Yeah. They need to ban Doritos or something. That's the real menace.
But it's not that easy to get a medical card here because I looked into it and I looked to see what I could do and what I couldn't do, and the amount of you have to already be on pain meds for them to give it to you. I mean, which is stupid because
I have a story that contradicts that though.
Which one?
What were you trying to get it from a doctor in Maryland?
No, I was just looking at the requirements that I would have to get, what documentation that I would have to bring to the table for me to get a medical
because I had a friend
card.
who what he did was he Skyped with a doctor in California.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
And he was like, yeah, my I have anxiety or something, something really stupid, but
well,
marijuana
shit, I'm
can
on
treat it.
Zoloft. Give me some fucking weed.
Yeah, and the guy was like, okay, and he paid him had to pay him $200 or something.
Was it for Maryland though?
But
he got his
it
card?
works in Maryland, and he bought he doesn't care about his Second Amendment rights or whatever.
If you have a card in another state, if it translates.
I think so, and I guess that's how he worked it because, he said it was super easy. He got it, sent it in the mail or whatever, and then he can walk into one of the stores and buy whatever he wants.
I know what to tell all of
Did they have
friends.
caps on how much you can buy? Can you?
Yeah.
So you can't go in there and buy. And it takes 6
Take
pounds.
a duffel
10
bag.
pounds.
6 pounds,
Do you guys
please.
take Bitcoin?
It's all for me. All right.
I'll take
My
one
back
Bitcoin
really,
worth.
really,
Just throw
really
it in his
hurts.
bag. Yeah.
Stocking up for the winter.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something a couple ounces or something. Still, it's more than you really would ever need.
Yeah.
Which
At a time.
Which state is that?
Maryland?
No, Maryland. I believe it's 10 grams.
Oh, that's really
10 grams.
But they still take it from you and give you some sort of citation.
Yeah.
Well, I was telling you earlier.
It's not criminal until it's over 10 grams.
Oh, okay.
But wait, I'm talking about medical marijuana.
Yeah.
You just have to have a card, and then you're fine.
Okay,
Medical
gotcha,
marijuana,
gotcha.
there's only a certain
you're
amount
allowed
you can
to
buy.
have more.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, this whole thing sparked controversy. I've seen people come out of the woodwork just wanting, this whole Jeff Sessions thing he did. Whether it's a direct or an indirect thing, a lot of people are just so pro weed, and I just can't believe that we're still living in this state of prohibition. When everyone, it just seemed like everyone. I posted a whole thing about what Ron Paul was saying about firing Jeff Sessions, and I had all my liberal friends on Facebook liking it, and even though he was kind of going after the state as well, it's just so weird how we're still here. We're still having to fight over, 10 grams of this, only 10. Like, why? Like, there's no regulation when it comes to, at least in our state, with like alcohol or cigarettes. I mean, with how much you can have or possess. And it's just so stupid. And I think we're just so far behind the times. And he's just like the dinosaur who's like just fighting against it.
There's so many dinosaurs. There's so many of them.
Yeah,
it's a younger people tend to be for legalization. I think the older voters tend to be more for prohibition. I think there's a lot of support for prohibition. So people think, like, we hang out with our friends, we hang out with our own circle, and it's like, yeah, we're all in agreement. Everybody's in agreement, but you're not seeing these other people that are very conservative, that don't want drugs in their communities. So like my friend Dave, you guys might have known Dave Boyer. I don't know if you know him. He like spearheaded the movement in Maine for legal weed, and he faced a lot of opposition. He was going to debates, and he was like the prohibitionists were organized against him. There is political opposition to legalization, even though we may not see it.
Well, you have the prohibitionists who they're like, oh, they get drunk 3 days a week, but oh my God, no, weed, can't do that. And, they've just been so ingrained from the propaganda from years and years and years of weed is bad. It's a gateway drug.
Marijuana's like heroin.
Yeah, like, have you done heroin?
Saith the Lord.
No. There are two different
But it's also
demons.
even bigger than, it's also, like, as far as politically speaking, you have, like, the prison guard lobbies, and like a lot of anybody involved in like the prison industrial complex,
like Jeff Sessions.
They
Most
say
of
that. I don't know that they necessarily.
Wait.
I mean, they were.
Wait.
No,
So
man,
Phil just said. So Jeff Sessions owns stock.
That's what I heard. I read
wait,
that.
what?
He
I heard something like that too. Like he benefits of it financially
in some type of prison system. So it's like
well, that would make sense.
It makes sense. I mean, I honestly
like
I can't say for 100% sure.
Prison system.
Yeah, it sounds to me like a conflict of interest. Kyle.
I did say that.
I could be wrong.
Well, I'm
I could be wrong.
I'm not even talking about private prisons per se. I'm just talking.
Well, in order for him to own stock in a prison, it would
have
to be a private
prison.
for lack
of a better term.
And I'm saying I don't know that his little bit of stock in a private prison somewhere necessarily affects his views.
No, he's just a stupid dinosaur.
Okay. Kyle, last I heard, like 3/4 of people who are in prison are in there for nonviolent drug crimes.
That's not correct. It's lower than that. It's
has it gotten
like
lower?
50% or something.
Like a few years ago, it was 1 in 6 people who were in prison were actually in there for weed. 1 in 6.
Maybe.
Yeah. So if 1 in 6 are in there for weed, that probably would affect Jeff Sessions' pot stocks, correct?
I don't know.
I mean, like what type of percentage is that?
I don't know what his personal holdings
Kyle,
are, but I'm telling you, I don't.
Dude, I'm kind of blazed. You're not. Like 1 in 6. Like what percentage is that? What is that? Like 15% or something?
Something like that.
17% maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 1 in 6, dude. His stocks were going to lose, dude.
Yeah, but I'm saying I don't know what his holdings are, where they are. That most of the prisons that I know of are public, so you wouldn't own stock in them. It's such an obscure thing to be like, okay, I'm going to do this just for my stock when I'm the Attorney General of the United States.
I mean, a lot of people who are in the government make laws to benefit.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, because they'll make a law because they're making money off of it in some way. They have the corporation that you have to buy these solar panels from now, or stuff like that. And that was one of the first thoughts that came to me when Jeff Sessions said what he said. It was, oh well, he's probably making money off it being illegal.
But the thing,
why else would he fight for it with all of this evidence, with all the evidence of how good marijuana is, how non-violent it makes people, how unharmful it is, and you're gonna go around and say this?
I don't know. Like I think Jeff Sessions is an evidence denier.
I mean, he is old, and it's kind of hard to teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah, but I mean, who doesn't have like the fucking like internet and social media? And
old
like,
people.
Yeah, exactly.
Even Republican candidates that I've known people who have worked on Republican campaigns, and they wouldn't come out for legalization because they were afraid that would cost them the election.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but at the same time, they weren't trying to bite down on it.
Guys, what do you think about this comment from Big Eth?
Who?
Yeah.
Oh shit, Big Eth.
He says the Sessions memo is a setup for the very stable genius POTUS to force Congress to give rights back to the states regarding drug policy.
That is a conspiracy if I've ever heard one.
You think this is like a big 40-60 chess move?
No.
From Sessions?
They're not that smart.
Wait,
No?
40-60?
I just had to bump it up. It was
okay.
I started off at 4D and I was like, no wait, this is 60.
60.
This is going in like this is crossing planes of existence here.
We'll have to see what happens.
So, hey, Big E, when are you coming back on the podcast? dude? when are you coming back from the alt-right, bro? So,
I mean, if that was the reality, that would be great. I just don't.
It's far-fetched.
It's a little
Very
far-fetched. It
far-fetched.
would require too many variables, I think, to actually get pulled. He says states' rights is part of Trump's platform. I mean, maybe, I don't know, but
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
I
I don't know if Sessions is really. I don't know if he's really
I don't know
thinking of the two things in the same breath. Like, I don't think he's making the connection between the fact that, states should be able to determine their own drug laws instead of the federal government enforcing it.
No, I don't.
I think he's just
agree.
anti-weed.
Yeah,
That's.
personally.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say he's been anti-weed for years.
Well,
so
he's also against states' rights.
then,
When he's with the state, he's probably for states' rights, and when he's with the feds, he's probably against states'
I
rights.
bet you he states' rights on abortion.
He probably is, but I mean, he's not really for states' rights, So
In the end, no,
yeah,
it's
exactly. Yeah.
he says POTUS is a grandmaster at 88D underwater backgammon.
Yeah, but
we need a big screen of that.
this
so we
whole-
can all read it at the same
We
time.
need to just Skype Big ETH in.
He says he's working tonight.
yeah. So
Apparently.
Jeff posts states' rights is the devil, and I'm sorry, I'm triggered again. But states don't have rights. Individuals have rights. States have powers.
Well, yeah,
And I hate when people say states' rights, but that's just me. But no, back we're saying
No,
about,
no. Okay, I want to go back to that though, because
Go
like
for it.
fucking yes, individual rights trump states' rights. Yeah, individual rights are the best.
but states.
Well, individual rights are the only ones that
But-
exist.
I don't think
but
collectives have rights.
I'm just saying, dude. Anytime you can use states' rights to overcome a tyrannical federal government,
Yeah.
fuck yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
using
yeah.
their lingo and their rules
Yeah,
against.
yeah,
the,
it's
the
a
system.
good
Yeah.
chess move. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, you're in the 88
like,
chess, dude.
it can be a good chess move.
Yeah.
If mind you, it improves on an individual rights.
Yeah, I guess, but
That's when states' rights are bad. Anytime they trump individual rights.
I just don't like the phrase itself because it kind of like diminishes individual rights. But that's just me personally. That's just my own. That's my own battle. I have to.
I think it
fight,
also
so.
just has like very I don't know, weird connotations.
Yeah, especially in a semi-southern
people are like,
state.
oh, you're just a Confederate.
yeah,
aren't you?
neo-Confederate.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, no, I just like the federal government is a very large government, and the larger the government, the shittier the government. So.
Right.
I think the word still works there. I mean, you're just trying to say what the states are allowed to do, where their powers extend to, and where they don't extend to.
Yeah.
You're trying to say, okay, they can do this, they can't do that. The word to me works in that place as states' rights. Sorry, Phil.
Sorry, Phil. All right.
That's a Wolf book on Trump.
Well, actually, let's skip ahead to the Kokesh versus Molyneux thing.
All right.
Yeah.
Although I haven't seen that, so I'm relying on whoever.
I haven't.
I
haven't
anybody?
seen it either. No.
I don't think anybody's.
I
I
refuse to watch it.
Who put it up there?
I just saw it today, this morning. I saw I was on my phone. I saw those two talking. I'm like, oh, I gotta check this out. And I probably should have for the podcast.
God
Should
damn
have
it!
looked at it.
I just promised Big Etha that we would talk about it.
Wait, are we talking about something that none of us have seen?
I
Yeah.
guess
I saw-
somebody
yeah.
put it on
Oh.
the fucking board. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
thought
it was.
someone had seen it.
No, I read a little
Well, I mean-
post about it, but I didn't watch it. And it was over borders and immigration.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like it's terribly predictable because yeah, because Adam Kokesh is going to be all cool, no borders.
That's the
blah,
name
blah,
of the
blah.
episode
Yeah,
right there.
everyone
And
should
then,
be free.
And then Molyneux is all fucking build the wall these days.
Yeah, he's
when
going
did
to talk
that
about
happen?
Exactly.
Like,
Wall.
can someone
Right
explain that to
around
me?
the Trump.
Like, I used to love him, and
What happened?
I have a picture with
Trump.
that motherfucker, and then he supports Trump, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I hate those
what?
fuckers.
No.
He's
how,
not-
how did you go from this ideology to supporting Trump?
Oh, did you see that? Now I forget who introduced things saying they wanted $18 billion to finish building the wall. Did you guys see that?
18
They
No, I
requested
didn't.
$18 billion to finish
they
building
start
the
it?
wall. I don't know. I just saw that and everyone's like,
feel like
I
they
thought
did
the
start
Mexicans
it,
were
yeah.
paying for that.
They did start it.
Okay, so they actually started it.
I've seen pictures. I have no confirmation.
They might have been
do a
an
lot of
artist
research.
rendition. I don't know.
It was like
those are the
it
type of
looked
pictures
pretty
I've seen.
legit, but it's kind of funny. I actually saw something that the people who supported Reagan, who said tear the wall down, are now supporting Trump,
Right.
who's trying to
Yeah,
build a wall.
totally.
Like,
Soviets build
there's
walls.
hypocrisy. There's no people don't actually think about what they believe in.
Yep, totally.
Well, I know Molyneux, in the alt-right, they want racial and cultural homogeny. They want, us to all speak the same language, to all have the same culture, to all, they're also pro-white, I would say. It's about, preserving white America and keeping them Hispanics out, I guess.
But is Stefan Molyneux, is he really that, like, pro-white?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you another thing
He
they're worried
is.
about.
Has he actually like?
I haven't, yeah.
They-
I haven't
they
seen
take
He
it.
the
seems to like dance around.
Yeah.
Sort of
Yeah.
like not necessarily being, just like, yes, the whites are superior. He doesn't like come out and, at least from what I've seen, who knows? I don't listen to.
Yeah, I, haven't
I
listened
stopped
to him
listening
in
to
a
him
long
when
time.
I heard
Shit.
out. When
Yeah.
I heard out.
But he gets into like the like the race IQ type
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
and
Mhm.
like and
socioeconomic.
They also take the position that these are going to be Democrat voters voting for more welfare and higher taxes. So, they feel like it's helping the Democratic Party to have Hispanic immigrants coming in.
right.
That's what they're, that's a big part of what it is. And it's also language, which is a factor for people. It's difficult when you're in a city. I was in Miami like last month, and English is kind of the second language down there. There's it's very multicultural, and you walk down the street and you can't understand half the people, which it's just it's
Not
what
the
it is there.
virtue signal,
That's-
but I mean, how do you think Mexicans feel or Hispanics of any kind feel when they come here and everyone's speaking English? I mean, they feel the
that's
same
the
way.
beauty of America is that it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. There's
a melting pot.
It's a melting pot. We bring people together, and you can live next to a neighbor that you don't speak the same language. I love that about Colombia, going around and being able to hear 5 different languages in a day. It just shows that people are looking past their differences and just going to get along with it. Like, I don't think there should be one universal language. Like, there shouldn't be one universal government, although who knows, that might actually solve some problems.
Yeah, I mean, neither should be forced on you.
Neither. Absolutely. Like, you shouldn't be forced to speak a language you can't speak, but if you're going to move to a country, you're going to try to learn the language, and if a bunch of you move to that country, your language is just going to develop. I mean, I know so many people that speak Spanish. It's just life. You go to the flea market, you're like, okay, if you know enough Spanish, you speak it. You talk to them in their language. What's the harm? It doesn't kill you to speak another language for 5 seconds. If you don't understand it, they're probably going to understand some English, and you can use some sign language and hey, food, comida, like, I'm hungry, donde está el baño? I gotta piss. Like, you can make signals and people can understand, but no one's killing you because you're not speaking the same language.
It's preference, and it really bothers conservatives that things change. They're not comfortable
Change
with
is
change.
hard, and they need to get the fuck over it.
It doesn't have to change. I mean, you just have to understand that some people just speak a different language and they're here. And
No, you speak American.
Yeah, I hate when people are like, we need to make the official language English. Like, why?
Why?
What does
Who
it matter?
cares?
What does that do? What does it do when you make it the official language?
They're trying to make
I don't
it the
even
Tower
know
of
how,
Babel.
like, I don't even know what that means. It just sounds like a really stupid thing to say. But I see lots of people say it.
It's a stupid thing to waste your time worrying
Yeah.
about.
I don't.
No, I'm not saying you do.
No,
I'm just
no,
saying
yeah.
in
No,
general.
I'm just saying, like, I don't in my
Yeah.
daily life.
I don't understand how Kokesh, as an anarchist, can talk about borders, like national borders. It's like, you don't have borders. You don't have a state. So, like, how are you engaged in this debate as far as that goes? There's no public property. He doesn't have any public property.
Well,
So
it's
like,
basically going to be like early Stefan Molyneux arguing with present day Stefan Molyneux.
yeah.
Right?
I mean, I've made the point about, like, not that I think there are any,
Which
again,
I mean,
goes
I
back
got to
to-
say, like, on the subject, I agree with early Stefan Molyneux.
Well, let's say, I mean, ANCAPs in particular have never been able to address landlocking. It's like, what happens if you're completely surrounded by private property and nobody grants you access to cross their property, how do you move around? That's a problem. And there's no solution to that. I mean, you could definitely get landlocked, and I'm going to be like, okay, you got to pay me $100,000 if you want to cross my property, or I could just say, no, you're not allowed to cross my property.
I doubt that's going to happen. I bet you would do it for 99.
No, I mean but it's conceivable.
I think I could Jew you down.
It's
you
conceivable.
Come down if you
it's conceivable because it has happened.
It's
because
conceivable.
People have been like, you can't cross here, or I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, it's like you put up a barrier and you just deny access. And if you're going by 100% private property, you're not going to have any public streets. You can't assume that you're going to be able to get around if somebody wants to.
Yeah, but you're also talking about, you're not contextualizing it. You're talking about like. That's almost like a Robinson on the Island thing, where you have like 3 people with their own private property. But you're talking about people living in the context of a society where there are consequences for being that much of a dick to somebody. All
right. But like let's say let's say it's Matt and I purchased the 2 lots to his side and then the street in front of him and the lot behind.
I get the scenario. I'm just saying,
he's landlocked.
I'm just saying that like Matt. Then you have to go out and you have to go to work. And, meanwhile, Matt's on the internet typing about how, like, this guy fucking landlocked me, and it's this huge story that blows up on Twitter, and then suddenly you're an asshole. You can't find a job. Nobody wants to sell you anything. I mean that's how voluntary interactions work.
So you're relying on ostracism to make me not be a dick to Matt, but like,
yeah, to a degree,
it's possible that somebody could just not care about that. It's like, hey,
But I mean, sometimes the street, like the homeowners association of a neighborhood, might own the road. You got to think like it's almost like.
Well, now you're forming a quasi-government because it's a collective organization, and it's gonna take up a collection.
You're voluntarily entering into that organization.
Yeah,
you're no more than you're voluntarily living in this country.
But I mean,
no.
Yes,
because I'm born in this country, and all of a sudden I'm under.
You signed a social contract on your way out of your mom, man.
Once these
on land that was not acquired justly.
Once these associations are set up, then they're set up, and new people will be born into them, and they will have no choice but to join them because they're pre-existing. So
Yeah, but it won't be like taking over large swaths of land and like just planting a flag and saying, "Well, this is our fucking."
I think it would be.
I don't think so. Man.
What is it? Hoppaland.
Well, see, this is why this is why like I didn't want to join the group of minarchist, anarchist, debate group, because you get caught up in the weeds of such strawman arguments and like hypothetical situations that really wouldn't ever happen in real life. And I mean, we can't go from 0 to 100, in a day. Like, you can't flip a switch to this whole thing. So like I hate when we deal with that, like thinking about it right now what we do, but it's like a generational thing. So people might not be able to grasp this today, like a paying toll roads of going through, but I mean at one point in time we did, and it took generations for us of government coming in. And I think in Maryland it was like 1918 they took over the whole Maryland road system. And I think like that alone, people since then and that point forward, we've been under this assumption that, oh, well, government owns the roads. Well, before that, really, you could be on a road and have to go to a toll house and pay a toll. And I think, now it's like you can't just imagine that. So it's like a generational thing. It's like something down the road.
They didn't even have cars back when the country was founded. Cars are only a little over 100 years old. So it's kind of a new problem.
I'm aware.
But
they still had horses and roads for travel, human beings to travel on.
I think if anytime we're talking about Kokesh and Molyneux, you're talking about an ANCAP arguing about borders, and public property is a factor because we're talking about the access to public property. I don't think private property is in dispute. None of us is saying that private landowners have to allow immigrants to cross their land. They can put up a fence, they can restrict that access, put up no trespassing signs. But when it comes to public land, public roads, who is allowed to cross, who's allowed access to that? And that's why I think it's, I think that those philosophies come up when we talk about this debate. What happens with public property? Who's allowed access? Who's allowed to cross?
If you're trying to get from point A to point B and someone goes, no, you can't come here, this is my land, what do you do?
Right,
but you guys thinking of it like in the hypothetical sense.
That's...
I mean, internally, like, I think about this stuff too, but that's why I don't like getting in these debates about it, because it's something that's so far-fetched and so out there.
We're talking about like a theoretical situation in which some guy's like in between a bunch of other people's property, but the reality is what we're dealing with is they want to build a fucking wall and spend billions of dollars on this fucking wall.
Yeah, they're making,
and then they want to also deport people that are already living here.
Yeah, and that's
and they
bullshit.
Start
that's stupid. That's not working with what we have already.
Yeah, so like instead of I think if I understand Phil correctly, I think our time is better spent talking about like the practical realities than like having theoretical debates about. Well, what happens if you're landlocked?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just talking about public.
point.
To me, the debate is about public property rights, which ANCAPs will say don't exist, but. Regardless, there is public property, and you had a situation with the Bundys a few years ago where they were grazing on federally owned lands, and he didn't acknowledge that those were federally owned lands, and he refused to pay the grazing fees to use that land, and that's what it was actually a property dispute.
Yeah.
Over whose land is that?
Well, fine. That's a situation where you can talk about.
Well, this is too because immigrants are crossing public property. They're coming in.
No, I'm not even opposed to talking
about
public versus private. I just don't know how we got to like the landlocked guy thing.
But it's only public land because the government came by with eminent domain and took up all the private property that bordered the Mexican government.
So then, how do we deal with
right?
the immigrants? What is the plan then? Like,
I mean, if
too many people
are
coming over here, too many people we don't like coming over here. How do we vet? How do you vet the people coming into your country, your territory, the place where you have your rules? And you don't want a bunch of people coming in here and trying to make it like their country. You don't want North Koreans coming in and then changing our whole entire government to be North Korea. So how do you deal with that? That's the biggest question.
In the 21st
and building a wall
century,
isn't the answer. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
right now.
building a wall is definitely not an answer because there's plenty of ways around it, over it, under. I mean, so many things. But anyway, like in the 21st century, I mean, there's never really been more access and involved with, like you said, cars and everything else. Before, people would just come across the border and just establish their own communities, or they would be invited over by the other country. Like that's how Texas was formed. The Mexican government said, "Hey, come, whoever settlers, come occupy this land," and they eventually got fed up with Mexican government. They pretty much said, it's ours. We're our own country now. So I mean, you're dealing with it, and you're using terms that would apply in like the 18th and 19th century, and applying them to the 21st century, and it's just you get caught up in all these weeds of that, and I'm just like. Of course, there's a vetting process of some type of thing in this world where you can just zoom 65 miles an hour over the board, in the roads.
But I also think that there's value in looking at the way we used to look at it, because if you take away technology, then that's how you have to look at it. So you kind of have to go back to the Stone Age and see how it evolved from that particular time period. How did we get to this point? Now we're at a point where we can talk to other people and we can understand them through technology, but without technology, how do you go about it? How do you go about when one tribe runs into another tribe? You don't speak the same language, you don't understand each other, but you both think that's your land. You end up killing each other, and there's war. And
if you have private ownership of the land that someone's crossing, you say,
but
stop
if you
crossing.
don't speak the same language, then how do they understand that you're saying, don't get over here?
I mean, then
with a gun,
like I'm holding a bow and arrow up against you, and I'm going, don't come here, and you're like, what the fuck is she saying? Is she saying come over here?
I think that's the universal sign of turn the fuck around at that point.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, but we just get caught up in all these problems. But I mean, if
they're
you
real
have
problems.
private property borders the land that people are crossing, then you can build your own fence, and you incentivize people to take care of their own property. Whereas when you have no one can claim their land, then everyone's just like, screw it, I can, like that was the problems with the Wild West. I mean, most people were grazing. That's why people got in they called it the Wild West, because they were grazing their cattle on all this public land because they weren't allowed to own it.
It doesn't necessarily fix the problem, Phil, because a person will come over, they'll be illegal, they'll rent an apartment, which is private property, and they'll
stimulate the economy.
They'll get a job.
No, Kyle, go ahead.
I'm pro-immigration, so
yeah.
But they'll get a job at a private business, so they're actually
Well, we were talking about this before we started recording about Ron Paul, in in his book Liberty Defined. He kind of had, you said, you were trying to understand it exactly what he's saying, and I thought that was pretty reasonable of a way to apply it in the 21st century now. Whereas if we have a generational thing where we just make it easier for people to come here, make it easier for people to work here and come here and get money and be a part of it,
And he says all that.
Yeah.
It's a great 3 pages if you guys want to know Ron Paul's position on immigration. It's Liberty Defined, the immigration chapter. And it's pretty reasonable. It's not closed borders and it's not open borders.
It's not really open
it's
borders
kind
either.
of a middle ground where he's like, we'll do work permits. After a certain number of years, people can apply for full citizenship. But that way, they become legal and like, I don't know. I thought it was a pretty good position.
I just think people are blowing up this immigration problem, that's not, when it comes to libertarianism, I feel like we have to defend all these weird, everyone wants to go to the fucking roads, is like, the roads, who'd pay for the roads? Like, I got in conversation with my brother over the Christmas time, you're talking about roads, and I'm like, look, I'm like libertarian because I don't like war. Like, can we stop with the wars first before we get into that concept?
It has to be a complete package. You have to be able to address every single issue and say this is what my
model looks like. But that's unrealistic because they can address every issue with their own political stance.
But they're going to be more skeptical.
Exactly, and I hate that.
I hate it too. People are more skeptical of other ideologies, but they won't be skeptical.
The only answer you have
own.
to say for those is just the market.
Well, if you try to teach a Christian,
I think that's too vague.
If you try to teach a Christian Muslim, they're going to be, oh, no, like super skeptical of it, but then they won't apply that same skepticism to their own religion.
Yeah.
They'll be just as skeptical of the other religion, but not look at themselves. And that's the way people do with libertarianism is they're, I'm thinking about it. It seems okay, but what about this? But what about that? And I'm like, do you even look at the Democrats or the Republicans in the way that you look at libertarians? No, you'll be skeptical at one point, but not at the others. Mm-hmm. It's hypocrisy, and I don't know how to address that. How do you get someone to like turn the mirror around and look at your own ideology before you sit here and you can be this skeptical about this, but not about what you already believe.
And I understand wanting to know the destination for which you're traveling to. So if we say, we want to go towards libertarianism, people want to know what that looks like.
Yeah.
But I completely understand that. But I feel like we get caught up in the weeds of like, well, I don't need to know exactly how many days you need to apply for this and that to come over here.
Yeah,
if you need to apply it all. Like, I don't.
Yeah, like all that information's available on Kylosphere, by the way.
It's not a reliable news source. It's fake news. It's mostly just memes.
But like I said, I get when people are confused and I feel like it's just so weird. It's like the crutch argument people say all the time. It's like they want to go to the roads. Like it's so weird how everyone goes there. But it's like right now I'm just like, hey, I'm concerned about all this money we're wasting overseas fighting. Fighting to maintain the empire. Like that's my concern. And like that's where I want to start talking about that first. I want to talk about the taxes I pay. Like it's ridiculous, and that's my main focus. And once we can come around to it, I guess in a hypothetical situation like we're in right now, where we can, or like on the groups that you're part of, Kyle, like the minarchist versus anarchist, things. It's I guess you get caught up in the minutia of everything, but I just don't like being there. I like attacking the issues at hand, and like this whole marijuana thing we were just talking about. Like, there's just no reason for there to be prohibition. I mean, we went through a decade long of that, which is so clear and evident in the whole cultural, representation in film industry. Like, so they know
40 years of prohibition, or it was actually as much longer. Yeah.
Well, I'm saying of alcohol prohibition.
Well, one of the things I've noticed is when you're talking to people about marijuana, if you actually say prohibition has. If you address it as prohibition, it changes the way they're thinking about it.
I mean, more police officers have died under prohibition laws than they have outside when there wasn't that prohibition. Like,
yeah, no doubt.
And so even when you go that way, they still don't.
Who do you like better, Jack Daniels or Al Capone?
Right.
Jack Daniels?
Jack Daniels. I see what you're saying.
Well, maybe though, but I mean, you could say like Al Capone was kind of a hero in that. Like, I mean, let's face it, everybody here likes to drink, right?
No.
No.
Okay. What's that big Punisher over there?
Everybody here likes to drink, and Al Capone would take the risk involved to supply you with your booze.
I mean, I kind of like him. I respect him.
Yeah.
I respect Al Capone. I always thought he was kind of cool. His murder.
Did he murder people?
Well, I mean, that part wasn't cool, but the other part was cool. You know,
it's like anything. The demand drives the supply. So when there's a demand for alcohol, somebody's going to be willing to circumvent those laws to meet the demand.
To watch
here's the thing though. If somebody tries to rob Al Capone, Al Capone is not like you or I. He can't call the cops and he can't say somebody's trying to rob me, blah, blah, blah.
But he's going to kill them. So
well,
that's
yeah,
what he's going to do.
He has to provide his own justice.
Yeah.
And that's
his
what,
own
that's what happens
his
with
own
the black
justice.
market. Have you guys seen Dope on Netflix?
No.
No, I heard there was an episode about Baltimore
Yes,
heroin.
I watched it last night. Y'all need to watch it. It's a very perspective on, the dealer's like, hey, the supply's there. I'm trying to make money to get my family out of the hood, and this is how I can do it.
Yeah.
And he can't call the cops when someone steals his shit. He has to deal with it. So he's like, it gets ugly, and I don't like that it gets ugly, but it gets ugly. And it's a very interesting perspective on the whole drug war. And then you see the cops who are like, these people just need to stop doing heroin, and they don't understand the addictive side of it. They don't, and they showed that Netflix shows a couple who's addicted to heroin, and they go, I got addicted because I was on it for 4 years from being in a wheelchair, and then the insurance company just cut me off. What am I supposed to fucking do? Heroin's cheaper than pills on the street. It's $30 for a fucking oxycodone of 30 milligrams. That's expensive.
Yeah.
That shit will only get you high for so long, especially if you're an addict.
Yeah.
So they go to heroin. It's cheaper.
And
And then
again-
they're cutting it with fentanyl, and it makes it even cheaper and then deadly.
Yeah.
Because these guys can't, be scientists
Yeah.
and actually run a business where they can say, hey, this shit's not going to kill you.
Right.
Like, this is enough to get you what you need, but you're not going to die. Heroin addicts aren't violent until they need their heroin.
Yeah. Or money for heroin.
Well,
Again, it's the
Hand in hand.
demand. The demand is driving the supply. The demand is driving the drug gangs. They're supplying a need or a want.
But yes, everyone should watch Dope. It's episode 2.
Yeah, I want to check that out.
It's very eye-opening.
Sounds dope.
Can we talk about mandatory?
Sounds dope.
The mandatory military service.
Sounds dope.
Yeah.
Is that episode title? Sounds dope. Is that good enough?
Okay.
It sounds dope.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Jared, make a note, quick.
Yep.
Do it now.
Phil, do you want to talk about mandatory military service?
So on my way over here, I saw an article posted. This is from ABC News. I guess it's one of their local sites. They posted an article about a Senate candidate from Texas who wants to make a mandatory year of service, in quotations, to I guess all people, all citizens have to make this this type of it's by a guy named his name is Beto O'Rourke, and he apparently is in the Texas Senate, and he's actually trying to race against Ted Cruz. And he wants. So I was just going through this article, and I was just finding it really appalling. I just think about where we are, and so some of the things I was reading, it says that sorry, let me pull this up here. So he's quote, every young person, regardless of socioeconomic background, to serve their country in some way, whether that be in the military service, a medical unit, and a teaching unit for over a year, to make better citizens out of us.
Wow. I didn't know that. He's
a Democrat.
Not just military service. He's extending it to healthcare or education, some field. That's
Yeah, and
you should be a public employee for a year. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it says the ideas explored in HR 3140, a bill introduced in the House June that he co-sponsored. It's called the Action for National Service Act.
Yeah, I mean the idea of mandatory service for the military is not new. He didn't come up with that. I mean, I think Israel has that. That's always been a popular thing for conservatives. I guess they feel like it'll mold people into
that's what
better
everyone's saying.
citizens.
He's a Republican?
No, he's
and
a
all
Democrat.
that.
He's a Democrat.
Yes.
Whoa.
Which,
Crazy.
not everybody's cut out to be a soldier. I think that's a terrible idea. The mandatory military service. I didn't know he was adding other fields in as an option.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea because it's kind of slavery, Kyle.
I'm one that does not like comparing stuff to slavery. I think it makes us look bad because, slavery
Forced
was
service.
Forcing somebody to
it's
kind of follows the
compulsory
ideology,
service for
though.
1 year, but I still don't like to use the term slavery because that's associated with the,
Well, there's chattel slavery, which
Okay.
is like bondage.
Exactly. It's
But
not,
not all
it's
slavery-
not exactly chain slavery, Kyle, but it's still slavery.
again, I would use the term compulsory service. I wouldn't associate it back with slavery.
It sounds like you're kind of like nicing it up, dude. I mean, if you're against it, why not go to like
little
the
bit of virtue
fucking-
signaling.
well,
I
it
feel.
lasts a year I don't know. To me, you're not property, but
Okay,
you
so
are being compelled
would it
to.
make you feel
Kyle,
better
I guess
if
you
I
can
called it
leave whenever
slavery
you
for a
want,
year?
right?
I don't.
Other than
Probably not. If it's mandatory,
if it's mandatory, you can't.
you
so.
can't.
If
But
it's
what are the
mandatory, it's
penalties
violent.
if
So
you leave?
what if halfway through you're like, oh,
Well,
you know,
listen to this.
isn't
This is some of
working
the
out.
some of the things it says to the people who complete the year of service who will be eligible for quote tuition and student loan repayment assistance and federal hiring preference to certain volunteer program participants. So it's like that's his spin on it. It's like, oh, you get preferential treatment like they are, like the military already gets. So I just
So can you opt out of it? Is that what he's saying?
if you complete it. So they want a mandatory. I don't.
If
this
you
is-
complete
this is-
it, you get incentives. But if you don't complete it, then you don't
I
get
guess
anything.
unless you get discharged for
Yeah.
something. I think that's what it's referring to. Is like unless you get discharged.
It's
Or,
just never gonna
I mean,
But-
no, it
it's
won't
not,
pass.
yeah.
It's just the idea of it, and so like I was telling you guys before that I saw that the Libertarian Party posted something, one of their platforms, saying that they're against the draft and that people own themselves, which Kyle, I know you vehemently disagree with, but.
I just don't like the phrasing of that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that you
You
are
and Ryan
you
Riot,
are
just-
yourself.
Just
but like,
know that you and Ryan Riot feel the same way on this issue.
yeah.
Gay.
So sorry, but but back to this. It's just like it's just and so like when I saw that post that the Libertarian Party posted, and I don't think it had anything to do with this. It's just one of their things they just posted up. And the comments on it were just, I found like revolting. Where I thought, you'd see a lot of people agreeing, because they always bump like the people that have the most responses or likes or laughs or whatever to it. And the first like 10 to 15 comments were people saying, no, I disagree with this. This will mold people into being better people if they have to work for the government and have to go and join the military. That'll straighten out these kids in this generation. And a lot of people,
yeah.
and that baffled me because I just got into an argument with my brother because my father, we're over the Christmas vacation, wherever, I got into a conversation with my father who was drafted in Vietnam, and we were just talking about some of the things he did, and I just found it like so gross that like some of the things, his mindset, he was telling me he had to go through, and I just kind of had a conversation with my brother about it, and my brother's like, well, I still support the draft, and I just found that like kind of revolting. I keep saying that word because it's just
Because he's not really thinking
And I'm
about
like,
the consequences
yeah,
of it.
and
Like,
that's what blew me away. And so,
Yeah.
and then just to think that I thought, well, maybe this is just him. And then seeing all these comments of these people, I'm just like, wow, I didn't realize there was still in this day and age after what we went through with Vietnam, that there's still a lot of people who are for the draft and for compulsory service.
that's about changing your perspective and changing the perspectives of these people. There's a reason that they believe this. There's a reason that they feel this way. They have a perspective. Oh, well, the military is a good thing. It's this godly, you're this honorable person, but pretty fucking much. If you're a police officer, a military, or fireman, you're untouchable. But if they don't look at it from a different perspective, which is kind of why I have an issue with Arvin, is because he's not really good at getting those who have a different perspective changing it. He just bashes their perspective instead of...
He triggers their defenses.
That means we have to have you on next time Arvin's on.
Oh, fuck.
Okay, we have to talk about your issues with Arvin with Arvin.
Okay, fine.
Kyle did it. Kyle did it.
You did?
I did. I went
He
on
did.
with Arvin, and I, tried to express my disagreements with the way he presents his message and with his message itself. Of course, I don't agree with Arvin on almost,
I mean,
a lot of
I
things.
don't disagree with some of the things that he says. I think that he has a good point.
Yeah.
But his delivery is flawed. It's not going to change anyone's mind. You're just you're building walls
Yeah.
by speaking that way to people who you have to look at it from their perspective. You have to come at it
Are
from
you
their
saying Arvin's a
perspective.
wall cook?
Pretty much.
Well, I really like Arvin. I really like a lot of what he said. But after he came on, before I got to talk to him, he was saying that about how public schools is middle class welfare, and I agree with that to a certain extent. But I'm like, well, welfare isn't really forced on you, so calling it welfare is a little disingenuous in my opinion. Because like like I said, personally, I may
Yeah.
take offense because I have 3 kids, and one of
But
them's
it
about to
doesn't
start
matter
going
what
into school.
It doesn't matter
Yeah,
what
I mean,
we as libertarians think. It doesn't matter what our perspective, how we see it. It matters what the people who don't see it the way we do.
Yeah, but kind
if they don't, if they're not going to, if they're not going to accept that, you have to come at it from something that they can put 1 and 1 plus 2
Well,
or equals two together.
I do agree with that, but I feel like also a lot of times, like me, I don't know, maybe just me, like kind of a slap in the face hearing something that harsh kind of makes you kind of rethink your steps. Like, whoa, like.
But it doesn't, because
I mean, to me, that's what I'm saying. That's how and that's what I discussed with him when I talked to him when he was here.
But they've done lots of studies. Recently, I was speaking to a friend, and if you use the term in an internet debate and you say, oh fuck, I'm gonna fuck up right now. It's anyways or always or
yeah.
Oh my God! Come on.
Like if you speak in absolute terms,
like a Sith.
Yes. If you're arguing with someone and you go, actually, that's it. Actually, if you're like actually,
that's a meme.
Immediately. They turn off that part in their brain and they stop listening to you. And they already are thinking of an argument. So when you have Arvin Vora coming on and going, well, you're a murderer if you're in the military, switches off. They're not going to listen to anything past that. They're not going to open up their mind. They're not going to listen to your perspective. They're not even going to try. Yeah. They're just going to be like, you're an asshole, you're an idiot, and they're going to argue with you.
Have you ever heard of like the rider and the elephant theory?
No.
Which is basically, we all imagine ourselves, you know, as just 100% rational beings, right? Mm-hmm. But the reality is we're like 95% emotional.
Yes.
We're some arbitrary high percentage emotional. And even when we're engaging in a debate or an argument, most of what's convincing us is our emotions. So what you have to do is, so like in the analogy or the metaphor, the rider is like the rational brain, but then the big giant elephant underneath is the emotional part of the brain. And in order to convince the rider, you have to convince the elephant, because the elephant's the big fucking elephant. So, you know, it helps to, you know, we constantly say try to catch flies. It's easier to catch flies with honey, right?
Than shit.
So so like there's this great, and like I watched this whole video and they analyzed this this video of Mr. Rogers, and he's going to try and get money for PBS, which, I mean, I don't like begging for money from the government, but it's still a cool video for what it is, and Mr. Rogers is like the shit. So
yeah.
So he basically, you know, he's talking to this like hard ass like Republican senator who wants to take away all his funding, and he just does this thing where he like just connects with the guy on an emotional level, like talks about how, you know, I'm interested in like helping the kids, and like kind of brings him into the fold with like, you know, you want your kids to be such and such, you know, whatever. And just like he ends up like, the guy just starts off like cold as ice, and by the end he's just like he's like, this is the first time I've ever had goosebumps during a Senate hearing. Mm-hmm. And he ends up, so like he went in trying to get like, I don't know, 10 million.
Okay, yeah.
And like
now I need to watch. I haven't seen it.
And the guy actually ended up doubling it.
Wow.
Instead of taking it all away, the guy doubled it.
So
I said, you know,
it's a sales tactic. In the end, it's a sales tactic. It's how you approach it.
Right,
and
you
how
pluck
you're
on people's
sell
heartstrings.
Right. Think of the children beat out. Think of the taxpayers.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. That's exactly.
And he's like, all right, I'll give you $20 million. It's not coming out of his pocket, you know.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, you know, it's genuinely that's what it was for. But the way that he phrased it, and the way that he like, you know, empathized with the guy and wasn't just like, you're being a dick, you know. Yeah. That's how you have to. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
You know.
It's interesting that you suggest that people are actually led by their emotions, and then we rationalize it after the fact,
exactly.
Instead of, you know, basically thinking and reasoning, being our primary driver. I'm not saying that all of everything that you believe is just completely based on emotion. I mean, but for a lot of people, and for just like the sort of ideas that the new ideas that you receive that you haven't sat down and like really just like gone over in your head and like poked and prodded at, like those ideas, you're going to be more likely to reject them if the person delivering them to you isn't connecting with you on an emotional level, you know. Mm-hmm. Or if you just hate them, or if
you just like hate the person.
Like with Arvin,
and
that's why I think Arvin, you know, is mostly just a troll. He enjoys trolling. He enjoys that negative reaction.
Yeah.
You know, he likes negative attention, and a lot of people are like that. They just like to poke the bear, and they get a kick out of that.
I don't know.
But
I think he's awesome at making people think, and he's getting libertarians to have these conversations. So I mean, dude, I think Arvin rocks.
His impact is very minute. in my opinion.
I don't know.
It's very small.
Who was the vice chair before Arvin?
I don't know, but
Yeah,
I just noticed.
I don't know either.
I just noticed his.
Do you know Kyle?
No, but I'm kind
Okay,
of.
okay.
I just
new to
noticed
the
his
LP.
Facebook activity has dwindled since his a few months ago shitting on the military in
His
the way
Facebook
that he
activity
did.
has dwindled.
Yes.
Oh no. Arvin's on there like
That's-
every
dude,
fucking
he's-
day.
No. Not
Arvin's on
him
fire.
posting. I mean, people responding.
Oh. Well,
People engaging with him, people liking what he says and agreeing with him.
I like every
most
Arvin
of the
post
time.
I see.
Well, yeah, of course you would. But
Yeah,
most of the time, I see when Arvin posts something, I see people being like, "Fuck you."
oh
Basically.
yeah, that's like the main
the
thing.
people are
Yeah.
arguing with him, and then after a while, people are just gonna unfollow you and stop fucking listening to you.
Those
just
are all
like
just
with
like
Kokesh,
like Kyle
people are just
Wagner's
gonna be
dummy
like, "You're
accounts.
being an asshole." Kokesh started being a dick, and then people started
Wild
unfollowing him.
Wiley Gagner.
There's an episode name.
Just don't be a dick. I mean, just
don't be.
don't be a dick.
Yeah, there's an element to that I agree with. It's like I totally see what you're saying, but there's also the back part of me that like I don't know. Maybe it's just the infantile child in me that I like. We even talked about it with Arvin. It was like when you hear this song, like we were listening to Pennywise, you were playing Pennywise, and the song "Fuck Authority" came on, and it brought me back to like when I was a kid when I first heard that. I was like, "Whoa!" So, and that's kind of like how I feel when Arvin posts his shit, like talking about the military and other stuff like that.
But
Even about stuff that I disagree with him, I'm like, "Whoa!" It makes me step back and think when he starts talking about public schooling, and I agree with him to everything until he gets to the line where he's just like, "Well, it's welfare for the middle class," and I'm like, "Well." Welfare. You can also make that same argument and say, well, the roads are for the or welfare for the middle class, like too,
Yeah.
and still be in the same track that he's going on. So, but it's just like that's forced on me, like so, and that's kind of like what the thing we talk about as libertarians is that. People call us hypocrites for using the roads when we're against the government owning roads. It's so stupid, and it's kind of like what he's saying. Like I'm forced legally, especially in Maryland, which ranks dead last in school choice and educational choice.
His position, Arvin's position, was that being a dick actually helps short circuit people and like gets them thinking outside of the box. He was like, I get that. That was his position.
Psychologically,
maybe that was just me.
in
Maybe
psychology,
I'm the only one.
no. Scientifically, that is no. You do not win people over by telling them that they're wrong. It's
Yeah,
Andrew
we're
Carnegie
sitting here
wrote an
talking
entire
about him.
book about it.
Yeah.
How to win friends and influence people. The number one thing that you do to get an employee to improve upon their performance is not tell them what they're doing wrong, but tell them what they're doing right and praise what they're doing right and say, "Hey, you're really good at this." You motivate them.
You might be right because I don't have a lot of friends. So
I mean, no, seriously. One of the best books I've ever read in the world is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
It's a great book.
Can I borrow that book?
It's wonderful, but it's a good perspective. It's not about you. Nobody gives a shit about what you think. They give a shit about what
It's
they
true.
think in their own perspective.
I've heard that
and if you
before.
can't change their perspective, you're getting nowhere. Arvin's getting nowhere. He really is. Yeah, he got a little bit of fame for a second. He got a couple of like woohoos, but he's getting nowhere. He's not going to get the entire population. Just the same way that Kokesh hasn't. Kokesh has been going at this for years, and he is a charismatic person who has a good personality that's out there that you can convince people to believe what he says.
Well, Kokesh has gotten people into it, correct?
He has,
Yeah.
but then he's turned people away from it because he's a fucking dick. Sorry.
How do you really feel about him?
He's fucking... I cannot stand him.
He's an interesting character in
you're
the
the
movement,
closest
you know?
person to him. It's sitting here, I guess.
Yes,
right?
He
I
had
am.
The whole thing
So-
with his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, that was kinda
basically
weird.
saying that he had her sign a relationship contract.
I believe... I watched that. Yeah.
He had a fallout with some of his former associates. People have said he's very difficult to work with. That he's narcissistic. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't
he's very
know him
narcissistic.
I don't know him personally.
I kind of
It
got that
was-
vibe
okay,
the one
so-
time that I met him, and I didn't even talk to him that long.
You could feel his vibe.
Yeah, you could just feel the
You
vibe.
could
I was
feel
like,
it.
eh.
Well, I saw him on RT right when I was coming into libertarianism, and I was like, wow. He's saying the real shit.
Yeah, I
He's
love that
talking
shit. I would
about
watch it every
it.
day,
Like
yeah.
he's getting into it, and then on top of it, I'm a female, and unfortunately, he is a very attractive male. So I was like,
that's what Kyle was saying earlier.
That's not what I was saying earlier.
He's good looking, so it brings your attention in more, which is why they use good looking people in Hollywood. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, okay, he's saying some good shit. Like, this guy knows what he's talking about. So fast forward to, I'm 24. I'm in a rut in my life. He happens to be in Virginia and he's looking for interns. So I send him my resume and I'm like, look, I am not anything you're looking for, but I can be a coffee bitch. Like, whatever. Have my interview with him and, what's his name? Shit, John something. John Light. Hi, John Light, if you're listening. Had my interview with them. They hired me on the spot. It was just, and all I did was edit the videos and go about it. But the more and more I got to know him, he would be one person on screen. The minute that fucking camera turned off, it was a whole nother Adam. It was a very controlling, very manipulative, why didn't you do it this way? Why didn't you do it that way? Why are you doing this wrong? I would be up until 3 o'clock in the morning editing videos just to make sure they were perfect. And he'd come down and be like, nope, that's wrong. That's not right. This is this, da-da-da-da-da. It was a very controlling situation. And then he would be like, oh, we'll pay you for this. We'll pay you for that when we get these. Very motivating. But then when it came down to it, you didn't get paid for shit. You didn't get... Derek J. Freeman, if anybody knows who that is, he came on while I was working for him. And it was because of him that he was like, Adam, we need to credit our editors. We need to put their names on there. He wasn't even crediting us for...
Really?
No. It took Derek J. to come in and be like, you need to put everybody else's name in the credits on this.
Was this Adam versus the Man?
Yes.
So
Adam
you were
versus...
actually editing footage for that show?
Yes.
Like
I
the
was...
RT version or the one after?
No, the one after. The one he did on YouTube. I was the one staying up until fucking 2 o'clock in the morning.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Editing all of it. I was filming it. I did all the panning. I did everything. And that motherfucker... The slightest thing you did wrong, he would get pissed off. And like that kind of pissed off where he's not yelling at you, but I'm just disappointed in you. And that's
kind of manipulative.
He's a manipulative person. I actually remember one morning he was trying to get me to do something. I don't remember what it was. And I'm just like, no. And he said it in like 10 different ways. He reworded himself so many times. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not. And it pissed him off. But he's a controlling... I can't stand you.
Didn't he move on to like 10 acres in a trailer or something? What's his deal now?
Homesteading, right?
Yeah, he's doing the whole homesteading thing. Like,
what does that mean? Like, whose land is he actually on?
I don't know. He was going to run for president in 2020.
Well, he's been on the book. He's been on the book tour. And like when they came through, I mean, I got emails saying, "Hey, Kokesh is coming to town.
Yeah, I got
Tell
that
your people."
too. I wanted to go.
Yeah.
So I mean, I gave him credit for finding my contact information and reaching out, but like
the thing
I didn't go.
Sorry, the thing with Kokesh that sucks is he is very charismatic. He knows how to speak the liberty message, but he doesn't live it. He doesn't. He doesn't live being a good person to other people, and he utilizes his charisma and his good looks to manipulate other people into doing... He's a con man.
Well, I mean, like, wouldn't you say that he lives the nap, but he doesn't do anything above that because
I don't think he lives it. No,
you don't think he lives the nap,
No.
like the non-aggression principle?
No.
Like,
Well, I mean, is manipulating necessarily in violation? I mean, I'm not saying it's not a completely dick move, but I don't know if we're talking just the very raw...
and I'm agreeing with you, don't be a dick.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I mean,
that's the thing. The nap isn't just like, well, once you meet the nap, like, you're fine.
When you make
I would say
promises-
the nap is the minimum of you not being a total piece of shit.
Okay, non-aggression. So if...
But if he's like defrauding you out of like your work
that's what
and like
I'm saying.
promising
That's
you...
aggression.
Yeah, if he's promising you like... Yeah, I'm going to pay you for your editing, and then he reneges on that. That's...
You got to get it in writing.
Well, yeah. I mean, verbal contracts.
At the time, I was like, you're giving me an eighth of weed. I don't care.
So it was kind of a barter relationship.
No, it was a barter. Like, from my perspective, it was a barter, but there were other people working there that he had promised, all these big, grander things, and then never delivered upon it. And it was so just the tension in the house living there. It was disgusting.
What year
that's
was this?
Not
what year?
Just 2012, actually.
2012.
Because I was there the night that the world was supposed to end. I remember that.
Oh yeah.
With Allie Havens and
The
Derek
night the
J.
world was
Freeman.
supposed to
Yeah.
How long
was
did
it
you
the
live in the
Mayans
house?
thing?
Oh, the December 12th
7 to
thing?
9 months.
7 to 9 months.
Something like
December
that.
12th thing?
Yeah,
Is
the
that even
Mayan
on
calendar, 2012. What was it? The 21st, I think it was.
Yeah, it was like 12, 21.
Yeah, something like
Something
that.
There are a few people in the liberty movement who are. It's really just all about them. They're just like. It's like you said, snake oil salesmen or con men. Like, they're just relentless self-promoters. It's buy my book, donate money.
I'm a goddamn
And the only reason
I
that
can
he-
think of like 5 people right off the top of my head that I think fall into this
But
category.
Kyle, the only reason that he even had any of the ability to do this is because his father funded him.
Yeah.
And he was funded by, he was on veteran disability. He was getting money from the government while speaking against the government, and then like
Wait, so Kokesh was a welfare whore?
yeah, absolutely.
Damn.
Well,
That's violating the...
Sorry, dude.
Should that be the title?
Oh wow.
What,
Yeah.
Kokesh is a welfare whore?
No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the title. That's just joking around. But anyways,
Is it?
so no, because
Are you?
I don't know. I mean, like
He had funding outside of, he wasn't making any money off of
Yeah,
what
I
he
mean,
did.
w-
He
well,
really wasn't.
like, isn't he kind of like a trust fund kid?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. So
His father's a venture capitalist.
Trust fund, oi boy.
He's from California. Like he's an attention whore. He took advantage of a situation and an ideology, and even if he might believe it on some level, his narcissism is preventing him from doing any good. He's
Think
just
he's just
using
like
and
suffering
abusing.
from PTSD? Or is that all bullshit too?
Not even that. He's taking advantage of the situation, and
Yeah.
whether or not he realizes it, he's using people to do what he wants. And he gets upset and angry with them if they don't do it perfectly. I can't tell you how many times he got angry because something was off just a fucking little bit. Like, that's not a libertarian perspective. If you're a libertarian, you're going to actually be like,
That's
well,
a
okay,
human
let's...
perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, to take politics out of it. Like, that sucks, like, being you, like, just someone constantly coming down to you for that. I mean, I can kind of relate, like, to that situation. So
it
that
was
sucks,
very,
like, on a human
like,
level.
unfortunately, it was a very abusive situation, and
That blows.
having been... I was abused very severely as a child, and therefore I always gravitate towards abusive people. And at the time in my life when I worked with him, I was still working through that, so I hadn't
That
quite
sucks.
disassociated from working with abusive people. And if I was who I am now and I had that interview, I would have been like, no, I'm not working for you.
Or as soon as you saw some red flags, you would have
I
been out of there.
Yeah, the red-
disappeared.
yeah, the red
Absolutely.
flags.
I
You
would
would've
have been
quit.
like, okay,
That
no,
sucks.
but because of that, and it was very abusive, and it was, it's abuse is aggression, but verbal abuse,
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's definitely aggression. Yeah.
absolutely. So that was what would surprise me, is seeing him spout all these libertarian views, but then yet be verbally abusive
Yeah.
That
and
sucks.
controlling.
God.
You can't be controlling and being libertarian at the same time. Like, your ideologies aren't meshing. And what sucked is he said it he spoke it so well. He knew how to say it.
It's almost psychopathic. It's almost
Yes.
like you have like a psychopath, like, take like Jeffrey Dahmer,
Taking
who was like
advantage of a situation.
right?
Yeah.
Who he was like the town awesome dude. Like, he would do like little kids' birthday parties and like his fucking clown suit and shit.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
everybody loved
that
him.
was
but he was just
Gary
pretending.
something.
He was in the Five Guys before it was a restaurant.
Wait, oh yeah, Jeffrey
Dahmer wasn't the
yeah,
Dahmer wasn't
was-
the clown guy.
no,
That
he
was
no, who was that? That was Ed Gein. Ed Gein.
no,
right?
no. It was fuck. I'm really big
Who
into
was? I thought it was Ed Gein.
hold on. Clown serial
I guess,
killer.
I don't know. But anyways, it's sort of the same thing where it's like he knew like the shtick to like get into this community was to be like the community guy.
Yes,
and then
John
nobody
Gain-
would ever. What was his name?
John Gainwacey.
John Wayne Gacy.
John Wayne
Yeah,
Gacy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, that so like he used that. Like he was so good at pretending to be that way because when you don't have any emotions. Like, you can pretty much be whatever you want. You can be a chameleon.
Is that
Yes.
sociopathy or psychopathy? I forget which one it is.
Technically, it's
I would think it would be
sociopathy.
I don't know. I don't want to
Psycho.
psychoanalyze the
Is
guy I
it?
never
I
met,
don't know.
but like I take your word for it. I don't think like you're
Well,
like
she's
lying.
also not the first person.
Yeah,
to
I know.
say
There's a long
And
list of
basically
people
this exact
criticizing.
description of
That's
Adam.
the
just
sad
sucks.
part about it is every time that I've recently said something on some group I'm in, and someone goes, "It's sad because this is not the first time I've heard this."
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of where I'm sitting here over here, but it's just
like no one's lying if.
Yeah.
I have no motivation to say this other than the fact that I think people should know, and that's
yeah,
not
especially
okay.
because
Yeah.
he's positioning himself as a candidate, where all of a sudden, a person's personality becomes a factor in your decision. So, if you're just a private citizen, it's one thing, but if you're angling to be a candidate for the LP and to represent the LP, we want to know what kind of person you are.
Yeah.
So it becomes everyone else's business, which is why politics is so. It really takes a big commitment to do that, because you're going to put yourself under a microscope, and all of a sudden everybody wants to know who you are and what you're all about. They want to know what the dark side is. Sometimes you can get away with having, if you're Trump, I guess you can get away with having a dark side if you have those billions of
can.
dollars and
yeah.
Yeah, but the thing
and
at least
be a
Well, I mean,
charismatic
okay.
speaker.
See, my thing is that not everybody, like, no one's 100% good and no one's 100% bad.
Yeah.
So Trump he's done some things that I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Then he's done some things I'm like, no, you're a dick. But I'm not going to condemn him 100%. That's like the same thing with my Kokesh. Like with Kokesh, he's 100. It's so hard because he's good, but he's bad. He's brought people onto the libertarian movement, but in the end,
Yeah, he's bad to deal with.
he's bad to deal with, and it's not really the person that we want
Yeah.
representing us, which is
No doubt.
Yeah.
And then, like, for myself, I was a huge Kokesh fan when he was doing Adam versus the Man on RT. Like, I remember coming home from work
and
at
yeah.
I'd get home at work at like 9:30 at night, and I'd always I worked at a seafood carryout at the time, and I'd always come home with a jumbo Coke, and then I'd fill a bunch of whiskey in it. And then I would watch Adam versus the Man when it would appear on YouTube around 10 o'clock. And, that's what I would do. Like, I would look forward to it. Like, I thought it was pretty awesome. So, I don't know. I mean, I really enjoyed him during that period. I kind of wonder, like, what happened to him, like, from there to when you started working with him, too.
Yeah.
Like, maybe doing that for so long, like, he began to have an ego. Maybe he didn't have it all along.
Honestly,
I don't know.
I just think he's an actor.
He's
just an actor. He's doing it for the act. That's why he was so passionate on RT.
Well, when he had me on Adam versus the Man, like, I kind of felt that, like, he was being a little dickish to me. So,
Wait, were you on Adam versus the Man in the house?
No, he like Skyped me in with Amanda Billy Rock
okay.
was on there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So-
I was there for that then. Okay.
Yeah. So, and like apparently, according to Amanda, like she set the whole thing up. So, but yeah, I mean, he seemed to come off as a little dickish to me, and the times that when I've seen him in person, I'm like said hey, and it's kind of like, very very short.
Well, you don't
And-
really know each other that well.
Yeah.
Even
But
so,
at the same
on that
time,
one.
at the same time, he wasn't very friendly to me.
he's not a friendly
So-
person. When you first like,
Yeah, and he was kind of throwing cheap shots at me because I was like smoking, and because in my old house I could smoke, but I can't smoke here, so I have to do the vaping. But anyway, so he saw me smoking, and he was like, "Oh, you smoke those big corporation cigarettes or something?" And I'm like, "Actually, I rolled this myself, Adam," because I was rolling my own cigarettes at that time. So and then Amanda started laughing, and then he was like, "Ah, I look like a dick." So that might have pissed him off a little bit, but. I don't know. At the same time, like I wish the best for Adam, and I do believe people can get better.
mm-hmm.
And
I would
yeah,
hope so.
yeah, I mean-
he just has to deal with some demons in his own right.
yeah, I mean
and-
he's went through some traumatic shit, like as far as when he was overseas, correct? Like didn't he like kill a dude, and he claims to like taking back part of his ear or something?
Part of his skull, I think.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it was-
I
it
haven't
was
read
like-
that
yeah.
book, but no, I don't believe that.
I didn't read the book either.
I don't believe
but
it.
You think that was all bullshit?
Oh wow.
You're
Wow.
skeptical.
Wow.
Some of the-
You could
you're-
say you're
you're providing
skeptical.
new
I
insight
worked
on-
with the
on
guy. I
Kokesh.
basically lived with him for 7 to 9 months. I don't remember how long it was.
That would be crazy if he made that story up. You know, that's like one of those key things.
I can definitely see him as an exaggerator. He's a narcissist.
Yeah.
So you think it was a fish story, kind of?
It's like Hillary Clinton was running from the bullets.
Yeah, no,
Right?
it was.
Well, do you guys
ducking
remember
for cover.
what? I remember when I heard about what part of the military he was serving in, or
He was a Marine.
he was a Marine. But what was he? He did something. I was like, oh,
He
they
did
probably didn't see
social.
combat. But
It
he
was.
says he did
He wasn't
combat.
in combat. From now, it's like coming back to me as we're talking about it. He did social something. He was a social interactor. He talked to people. It was a words. Come on, brain not working right now.
Communications facilitator.
He was in communications
radio
Something,
guy.
something like that.
Yeah.
Like it was like
And
a
I remember
social.
like, huh? He says he was.
Translator.
Yeah, I don't know. It just
He
sounded
wasn't
kind
a
of weird. but I
translator. He
don't
doesn't
know.
speak anything
No.
but English. From
I think it was communications,
All
something
right.
like that.
I think we've spent enough time talking.
Yeah, I
shit
do
about
too.
Anyway,
Adam
yeah.
Kokesh.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
You guys want to talk about your favorite topic?
Okay, so
Bitcoin!
we're talking about Bitcoin. So Rachel's going to do her thing and share this on our new Facebook group. It's entitled Punk Rock Crypto Traders. And it's just a place where, we can be positive and talk about crypto. If you have questions about crypto, you can come in there and answer them. If you just want to exchange, opinions about like new cryptos, what you think is going to do well, So, yeah, like this week, I guess we're going to talk about Bitcoin. So, what are you guys hodling or?
Wait, I thought
yeah.
you've been really getting your dick hard for some
Nexus.
Nexus, dude.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe you
so,
want to talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, so I've been getting really into Nexus. I first heard about Nexus, I want to say like 4 or 5 months ago from maybe longer from Tim Davis, and he was telling me about it, and he was basically saying these libertarians made up this cryptocurrency that's a huge improvement on Bitcoin. And they're talking about like shooting satellites up into space to, get people internet, and also so you could, do cryptocurrency and not have to worry about like governments or whatever. So, just giving individuals all this power, and so Nexus like right away sounded like fucking awesome. And I heard at the time that Nexus was pretty cheap. I think it was like $2 or $3 at the time. And then, since like October, I've gotten into crypto, and, I finally got on an exchange that sells Nexus. So, and I've done pretty well on crypto too. Everything I've thrown money at has went up in value. So, I was able to throw some money at Nexus. Like I bought 100 Nexus when it was going for $3. So, and then now Nexus is $12. So, I've like quadrupled my money on Nexus. And this is in like a week. The market caps went up from 200 million to about 700 million right now. So, it seems pretty awesome. And it's a really good deal because it has about the scarcity of Litecoin, which is valued at $287 right now or something, like close to $300.
It's at 267 right now.
Okay, so 267. So, but right now you can get Nexus for $12. So I think once these guys fucking shoot up rockets, like
Once they blast off
yeah,
to the moon.
Once they blast off all over K-Wag's face. No, no. So once they blast off these rockets, I think this shit's gonna shoot up. But
Literally.
at first when I heard about Nexus, I was thinking, oh, what is this? Some like libertarian rednecks fucking around with rockets in their backyard. Then I was talking to John Vibes, and he informed me that Colin Cantrell, his father is, I believe his name is Jim Cantrell, and he's in the SpaceX program, or he was formerly in it or something. But the guy's a billionaire, and he's done this before. So, and apparently, like, Colin was talking with his dad Jim, and Jim was already planning on the satellites, and Colin was already doing the crypto, and they just they're doing them together. So it's a totally legit project that's linked to crypto that at the same time might even make crypto more legit. So the fact that you can get Nexus for $12 a coin right now, and Litecoin, a coin with the same scarcity that's not even half as cool.
Yeah.
You're it's right now it's worth up to $266. So it seems like a pretty good deal for Nexus, and also Nexus seems pretty libertarian.
Yeah, I was watching the video that you sent earlier, and I mean the guy's super intelligent. Whether it's the actual cryptocurrency or the blockchain, or even like he was getting a little bit into building rockets, and just the people that they have on board seem very, very intelligent, and they're all libertarian, or at least he is. So I bought in. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean,
Money?
like seriously, it's just really fucking awesome. I encourage everybody to look it up. Look up Nexus. Look up Colin Cantrell, and you can find out some shit on YouTube. You can also go on the Daily Liberator, and you can read a little bit about it as well. So, yeah, for me, that's my exciting thing with Bitcoin. But with Bitcoin right now, there's a lot of opinions. Okay, so. I'm of the opinion that Bitcoin's transaction fees are very high, and the transaction times are pretty slow. So while it still has the highest market cap because it is the Coca-Cola of crypto, I mean it's no doubt not the best currency right now, and I feel like they need to fix that. I'm not saying that they can't fix that. I actually have more faith in Bitcoin than I have in Bitcoin Cash.
Even what is it? Pirate Bay.
Yeah, they're like Bcash, LOL.
Pirate Bay. They're just like they have all these addresses that you can donate, and then Bitcoin Cash is fuck you.
Yeah.
Like it's. I don't know. I have faith in the good old Bitcoin. It's gone back up. I don't think it's going to go anywhere because it's the one thing that you trade. You have Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin that you can really trade with, and Bitcoin has more value.
Well, I mean, maybe it's the kind of gold of cryptocurrency, and I'm not saying I think it's gonna die tomorrow.
No,
but sometimes I think when and I might I'm saying this now, I could be proven wrong, and I acknowledge that nobody fucking knows with any of this fucking shit.
This is very true. Nobody knows.
Nobody fucking knows. If they claim to, they're full of shit. The best crypto advice is don't throw in any more than you can afford to lose.
That's sound advice.
And hold.
I think what's really interesting,
and then hold
too. Like this is competing currencies. These are what Ron Paul was talking about with competing currencies, and past economists were saying you can have competing currencies. I don't think anybody saw crypto coming out as being the thing, but that's what's emerged. So, starting actually interesting, seemingly from the libertarian kind of sphere, but now you have private currencies. They come from nothing. They're just made up, but they work. And I think you're going to see transaction fees come down for Bitcoin and speeds improve. It's a new technology, so places are catching up. But you could see at least some of these currencies start to be accepted as alternatives to the dollar for a lot of vendors. Maybe even foreign vendors, maybe even foreign companies.
Well, yeah, I think. I'm not gonna lie, I still have some faith in Bitcoin, even though I've sold off most of it.
Yeah.
To invest in other things that have been making more percentage wise recently, pretty consistently. But Bitcoin has been a consistent home run since its existence. It went from pennies to what is it now, like 16 grand or something, right?
16,
16.
Yeah.
So
15.8 right now.
Yeah, I mean, I have some faith in Bitcoin. I like Bitcoin, and I do want Bitcoin to succeed. But one of the things I like about Nexus, I saw an interview with Colin Cantrell, and he was saying the interviewer asked him something like, "Would you ever patent the Nexus stuff? Like the Nexus technology?" And he was like, "Only to make it public domain, so somebody else can patent it ahead of me." And I thought that was really cool. It's very Tesla-esque. It's very Elon Musk-esque. It's very IP is BS. And I feel like if everybody has that attitude, we'll like advance so much further as a species. Like, I mean, just like everybody all together.
I don't know about all that. I mean,
you'd like to think so, but then someone goes, "This was my idea. It's mine.
Yeah,
you can't touch it."
I spent $1 billion developing this technology, and now you're going to copy everything I did and then make the same profit as me and compete with me on equal footing, even though I put in the invest. That's what it really is. It's a mismatch between how much you invested into it versus someone else who comes, a Johnny-come-lately who comes along and just copied off of you. Now you can't recoup your investment cost.
Okay, so you think it's stupid for him not to, put a patent on it, and he's actually putting it out there, and he's like, Bitcoin can use it to fix their shit if they want to.
It's his personal choice. I mean, if he invested the money into it,
you don't think it's cool at all?
I guess it's cool of him. I don't know. Whatever, he does whatever he wants to do.
How is it not cool? How is it not cool?
It's cool. Whatever.
Yeah, man, I'm cool, dude.
I'm just saying, there are a lot of companies that put a lot of money, they spend a lot of money on R&D.
I think you're better suited looking at some. Are you familiar with Stephen Kinsella and his work?
Yeah. I don't like that guy at all.
I don't like him as a person. He's kind of a douchebag, but
that is an understatement.
But his writing is his IP stuff is really good, I think.
All right. Well,
really convincing. So I don't know if you've read it or not. But.
No, and I always make the point, like people make this big distinction between tangible property rights and intangible property rights,
and scarce
like
and non-scarce.
Yeah, but at the same time, like it's still, both of them are just human constructs. They're both just rules we make up. We say, okay, Jared, you have exclusive right to this land, and you have exclusive right to use these Golden Arches logo. That's your trademark. To me, trademarks are a good example of.
Yeah, but see,
I don't want someone else copying my business name and logo.
That's also fraud.
Yeah,
that falls under fraud.
Yeah, you can definitely.
Yeah, but you could also make an IP
you can make
case
an
out of
argument for a trademark, I think.
All right, and a copyright. Like what if I write a book?
Much more than a patent.
I write a book, and then someone just says that it was their work, their writing, and they try to pawn it off as their own.
Yeah.
To me,
no, that's fraud.
I don't.
Before you know
fraud.
it, it's on Kylosphere.
All right. Well, I mean, you're still kind of taking an IP position on it too.
Well, but it's a different. It's conceptualizing it different, and like that's one thing. But then when you're talking about like these little like all that Apple and Google do all day is just have patent lawyers go at it. Like that's like, half their fucking like shit is like just patents.
Yeah.
And just like, one guy will win one case and then the other guy will win the next one. It's just like this constant battle, and that's how these fucking lawyers like live, right?
Yeah.
And like that kind of shit is based on just nonsense. I mean that kind of shit is just based on like, well, we have like a bezeled edge and you guys want a bezeled edge, so like no, but we patented the bezeled edge, and it's like these are just ideas that are floating around in space that happen to enter into your mind, and like no one's like, it's like you can't steal something that's not scarce. Like you can't steal something that can be multiplied through infinite minds.
I mean, you can. It all depends on what the laws are that we write.
Yeah.
We can
now
write.
We're getting away from principles.
We can write any law that we want as far as governing the market.
You sound like
stop saying we, Kyle.
Yeah. All right, the government can write laws.
Yeah, I mean the government can write whatever they want.
It's just like the NFL rules
but they're not
committee
right.
Makes rules for the NFL.
Right, but I'm talking about morality. I'm not talking about government laws.
I know that's where you're going off course. Like you need to talk about.
No, that's
the
where
reasons,
I'm staying on course.
Like, there are pros and cons to IP having IP laws.
Yeah, but I'm not.
There are
I'm not a
advantages
utilitarian. I'm not a utilitarian.
You should be though.
I don't think so. I think that's a dangerous path.
You're just
okay. All right,
like
Kyle.
I could just say no. It's morally right to do it my way because the person put all this money into it and they deserve to be able to recoup their cost. So Kyle, that's moral. So now it's just both of us saying my way is moral.
Wait. So white women can't wear hoop earrings because that's black culture property, right?
Cultural appropriation.
Yeah. So that's property of minorities, right?
I mean,
you want to
is
go
that
down
the
that
position
wormhole
that you take?
No, it's just a wormhole that you seem to be backing, but you're
no,
intellectual property.
I don't take that position.
You're totally muff diving in that wormhole.
But you are.
How
though,
do
when
I?
You sit there,
how am I?
Because you're defending intellectual property, and you're supporting the idea of the collective ownership over words and thoughts and actions and looks. Like, you
think
can't own that. That's not physical. Like, that's kind of like what like people say about Bitcoin. Like, oh, you can't physically touch it. You can't own it.
Hoop earrings are physically a real thing.
Yeah, but
you know,
do you own skin color?
Are you saying like let's say like a hairstyle? You can't wear your hair, and can you patent a hairstyle and say, okay, no one else can wear their hair this way?
Why not?
This
let's
is
say
the
you're
way
a barber.
I
Let's say
invented.
let's say you're a barber. Let's say you're a barber.
You can't patent a brushstroke. What did Vince Van Gogh's the only one who can do impressionism?
That's what I'm saying. That's the reductio absurdum of trying to claim ownership over an idea.
Right?
Because where do you draw the line?
A new word.
And your answer is government. Your answer is the government.
It's an arbitrary line that we draw.
But I don't. Yeah,
you know, you could say it, and they have those kinds of rules. There are certain things that are patentable and certain things that are not patentable, and I don't know what those rules are, but they've written them.
But wiser bureaucrats than us can decide these things.
That's how society works.
The smart government.
We have the market, and then we have the government, which regulates the market.
I don't know, man.
That's how it works.
All right.
I love you, Kyle.
All right. I kind of want to wrap this up, unless we really want to go on to tax cuts.
I have one quick thing. One quick thing about Bitcoin. My friend posted a thing. He had like a credit card that he's like, I just bought groceries and gas from Royal Farms with my
BitPay.
And it wasn't BitPay. Was it Swipe or something like that? Is there another card?
There might be one other card,
I've heard of BitPay.
but I know of BitPay.
I think there's one called.
John Vibes has a BitPay.
I don't know. It was really cool. Like, I don't know what his transaction costs were or whatever.
Visa.
But
Visa does it.
It was a Visa card.
Yeah, then it must be BitPay. I don't know.
Did he have to pay like the transact? Was he using Bitcoin?
Yeah, he said I just paid for my food and and gas with Bitcoin.
Did he have to pay the $30 fee for that? Or do they have some way of like offsetting that cost for the card?
Varies based on how much you're spending.
Well, no.
My fees have not been that bad.
I mean, you're pretty much paying the same fee. It's all dependent on what's going on in the network. It doesn't really have anything to do with like how much.
I thought it was a percentage of what you were spending.
No. It's a percentage of like the total value of Bitcoin.
So it's a flat fee?
Yeah, it's essentially it's a flat fee, but it fluctuates depending on like what's going on in the network, like how many transactions are occurring at that time.
It was a Shift card.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah. Okay, Visa. Okay.
It's a Visa Shift card. I don't know. He blurred the number out of his credit card, but
that's pretty smart.
Good.
Good
job.
It's interesting that they've come out with these cards now where you can transact, and it basically it's converting everything to dollars. It's like the vendor's getting paid in dollars. They don't want your Bitcoin, but it conducts a behind the scenes transaction.
They might want your Bitcoin.
Now
maybe one day, maybe one day, or maybe today, maybe they do. But I don't think they're counting the sales for that day and going, okay, we got $10,000 and $5 in Bitcoin. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's all their sales.
We got like 100 satoshis.
Their sales are all in U.S. dollars, and one thing that concerned me with multiple currencies is the difficulty in having multiple currencies and always having to do all these conversion rates and everything else. I mean, accounting wise, it's a huge pain in the butt.
Isn't that kind of the way the world already works?
With international transactions, but not really domestically.
No, now it's just moved into the domestic side of things.
It is. That's something that Bitcoin's bringing. So it's going to be very interesting.
Well, it seems actually, if you go onto the markets, it seems like a lot of things are being measured in terms of satoshis, which is like a fraction of a Bitcoin. And like when I see like traders talking on Twitter, they're referencing things and not even in dollars, they're referencing them in satoshis.
Really?
So in the relationship of these other currencies to Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Which is pretty fascinating. Yeah, like
that's cool.
And like I'm trying to like kind of like do the get to the point where I can do the math in my head.
Yeah, wrap your head around that.
And when they're like say like 10, hold on, let me
Jared,
finish.
Don't come in your pants.
That was unnecessary, not that funny. So 10,000 Satoshis, like, what is that in dollars? Like, I want to be able to do that, like, automatically in my head. Of course, it varies every day, but, like...
And I'm saying that's actually a pain in the ass.
Well, if you live in Europe, that's an everyday kind of experience. If you're traveling between the countries...
Kyle, what I'm saying is, like...
Prior to the euro, which is why they adopted the
euro. Because it was a pain in the butt to do all the conversions.
Exactly. Yeah. But it still was a normal thing to them, which is why so many Europeans are into Bitcoin and crypto.
So I think the theory was that the market would eventually adopt one universal currency if it was free to do so, right? Wasn't the idea of consolidation?
Dude, what if Bitcoin's the currency of the New World Order?
I think that's Ripple.
That's Ripple.
I was going to say that.
Ripple is New World Order.
Western Union.
Well, you know what? I don't think that it's going to be one currency to rule them all in the end. I think it's going to be different currencies for different applications.
But why not? Wouldn't that make it easier?
Well, I mean, look,
we like
you have gold and silver, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Regardless
like
of
classically speaking, you have gold and silver, and they're used for different things. Gold is typically used
True.
as a store of value. Silver is used for day-to-day trades.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or day-to-day
that makes
purchases.
Sense. Like,
so you could have that with Bitcoin, and whatever. Let's say Bitcoin's the gold, and then you have, Ethereum is the cash, whatever.
So you buy your house with Bitcoin and your groceries with Ethereum.
Something for big and something for something. Yeah,
right.
I don't know.
Or
it can break
is
down.
slow as shit right now, though. I've got to say that.
What?
Ethereum is slow as shit. Like
I mean, Bitcoin Cash was slow as shit today. It took me like 25 minutes.
Bitcoin's been slow for years.
Yeah, but I love, like, my preference is Litecoin. If I can deal with Litecoin, it's so
faster,
fucking quick.
yeah.
It's really fucking
so
quick.
much faster.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not that impatient.
Is this just buying the stuff, or are you guys doing
Especially
transactions?
rolling, dude. I have stuff to do, dude.
Especially when Ethereum was like moving up as I'm like transferring it over. I'm like, all right, I'm getting like more value.
Yeah, I got rid of like my 3 Ethereum right before it.
I've done great with Litecoin.
Yeah, I bought Ethereum off of Coinbase. What's happening? Oh.
Nothing.
Okay.
Things are happening.
I bought Ethereum off of Coinbase, and now when you buy anything off Coinbase, it takes like 2 weeks to get it, or like a week, or like at least a week.
It's definitely like several days.
I got Litecoin really fast the other night. It was like right instantaneous.
Like you
on
had
Coinbase?
you had to buy with cash on Coinbase.
Yes. Instantaneous.
Well, it might be because they're not because no one wants Litecoin. That's why.
Actually, like a lot of people trade with it since like Cryptopia cut out the trades with Litecoin. Like Litecoin and Dogecoin both went up a bunch today.
I mean that's fine, but I'm just saying like as far as liquidity, I don't think Coinbase has enough Bitcoin or Ethereum on hand to fill the orders. I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah, so
they have to delay
a better currency for an actual currency issue fast currency.
No, you're not getting it, dude.
Fees.
You're not getting it. Yeah. You're not getting it. It's Coinbase. The problem is with Coinbase. The problem is buying from Coinbase. The problem is not like transferring Ethereum. You're not hearing what I'm saying. I'm saying buying with cash on Coinbase. They delay it by like 7 days. It has nothing to do with like the currency itself.
The exchange.
It's the demand of the currency.
7 days.
Yeah, it's not going through the network. It's not taking that long to get through the network. It's literally like Coinbase depositing it in your account, and Coinbase is shit. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
I agree with that.
Coinbase is shit, but they're the biggest dog in the race right now, and they're the easiest to use.
Exactly. Well,
you can't hate them that hard, but like
they
are
the easiest to use. They're the easiest to use.
Yeah,
I'll give them that.
Yeah, definitely easy.
Definitely easy. Should that be the new title now?
Yes.
Definitely easy.
Absolutely.
All right.
Are we done?
I think we're done.
Yeah.
Okay,
so we have T-shirts over at libertariancountry.com, and if you purchase any T-shirts over at libertariancountry.com, you can enter in the code PRL or the code PRL podcast, and you will receive a 10% discount. Oh. And we also we do a website, The Daily Liberator. We accept article submissions, so if you have something to say, we provide you a podium for which you to say it. And until next time, live free or die.
Statism's footprint is the blood that is shed, drenching the flags of the tax bombs in red. Was its way of feeling the expense of the many, so did the cards in the death machine. You can't justify killing by economic gain. For God, country, and democracy, you can put freedom in gunpoint in a foreign land. We support the troops, then bring them home. I believe that you will do the best for you. And I believe that we have the power, have the power. I hate the state, and I know I'm a slave. We can make a break, break the power, break the power. Society owes individuals nothing more than non-interference with natural rights. Once a virtuous person fully comprehends the non-aggression principle, the violence of the state becomes obsolete.